good night, everyone. Tonight, God is good. God is good all the time. My name is Summer J. Spirit Divine. I'm here to give you the shout news on tonight. And this is going to be kind of horrible. Um, we have now this old news, but sometimes old news still be reposted, because it still be going through trials. A black man, he starved to death in jail. Now he couldn't pay $100 bail, they said, you know, but it's still no reason for him for him to starve in jail like that. So his name was Larry Price Jr. Wandering into the small Northwest Arkansas police station, on August the 19th, 2020. As he did nearly every day. Now see, he was mental he had mental health problems. They knew him. They're saying that he used to go around the police station all the time. And just goof around and then he leave. So the police in the town, Fort Smith, he was used to seeing Price, and then coming in, hanging around for a bit, and then he'll leave. Then no home. So but on that late summer, day, Price also is diagnosed with bipolar disorder and having PTSD. He used to use his finger, and pretend like it was a gun, but he had no weapon. He mental, really. He had mental problems, So he going around pointing his finger like it was a gun, in the station. They should let him come through there all the time, So and officer praying at the officer, threatening, cursing, at those present. The officer seemingly concerned for his well-being and the safety of those that was in the station. So they arrest him. They arrest him on a state felony, terrorist, threatened in the first degree. Now this system is broken. He stands like 6 feet tall. Nearly 200 pounds or more. Price, according to the police, report, he wasn't immediately a threat. He really wasn't a threat, they say, but they arrest him. He had no real weapon, no weapon but his finger, but there was no setting him down or reasoning with him, so he was handcuffed, and he was taken to a Sebastian County Detention Center, which handled inmates from Fort Smith. Now he was locked up, and then he went before a judge who set a bond for $100. And it was simply that he would have been free for $100, for bail, but he was detained. So they're saying he was detained. Then they're saying he didn't have $100. He was disabled. He wasn't working anywhere, and who I was in charge with his check, they should have called his family. To see if one of them had $100 to get him out. So from then, everything else that could have gone wrong, for the police, his mind was lost. He in jail. He had mental health, so he don't know why he in jail. All he know he used to go there and just play around with them, and then he leave. But this time, he could not leave. He was sustained. Handcuff him. So they were saying he lost his mind. His health had gone. He ain't been taking his medicine since he was in there. And seemingly no one paying him no attention to his well-being. You know, Nobody paying no attention to his well-being. And seeing that he eat. Everyone that's in there supposed to eat at least 2 or 3 meals a day. So Price, he died a year later. So that means they arrest him for no charges. I mean, they said disturbing peace and all this kind of stuff, but everyone else said that he really wasn't no threat, and they placed him in jail for a whole year. They said he really was waiting on his trial. A whole year, and then the next year, the following year, he died. He died for salvation. So they found him on in a confined cell with his eyes wide open, naked, and he starved and drank dried up in his saliva. You know, on the corner of his mouth, and a pool of standing water was so large. His feet had shriveled, and he had long since he had his medicine. Since he been there, he ain't had his medicine. Remember, he was in there a whole year. You know, his medicine had been taken away. Towards the end, he had resource to eating his own penis and drinking his own urine. So they ain't fed him since he been in that. Luckily he had survived a whole year before he died. So he started eating his own poo and started drinking his own urine. So when he went in, he was weighing like 200 some pounds or more. Remember he was 6 feet tall. You know, so Larry Price, he died in jail. You know, um, he died in jail in 2021. With 90 pounds. But then they said they re-weighed him when the time the ambulance came, and he was like 120 pounds. So a lawsuit was filed that Friday. You know, this says Sebastian County Detention Center did lack his care and effectively starved Price to death. Starved him to death. You know, I thought when they're in prison, they're supposed to eat 2 or 3 times a day. He hasn't ate anything. Every day they were just starving until he just started eating his own, drinking his own urine and eating his own food. And I think that's sad. The system is really broken. So by the time emergency service arrived at the jail to attempt to sustain him, Price normally a solid man, but weighed just 90 pounds. But the ambulance records show 120 pounds. But yet, even after his death, the jail monitor continued to give reports stating the inmate, and said okay. So they kept saying he was okay. But they ain't had no choice but to call the ambulance because he was down and laying up there in his own slobbering and everything, just dying. And they had no choice but to call the ambulance. You know, why starve him to death? Why not feed him? And they're supposed to eat 2 or 3 times a day up and down. Why have a mental person in jail instead of having a separate shell for someone like that? Have someone specialized for cases like that. You know, he didn't know what was going on. All he know he's to go there and play around with the workers and stuff, and then he leave. But then this time he stuck there handcuffed, and then not eating. He was over 200 pounds. My heart just go out to this story right here. He was diagnosed mental illness. A man who couldn't afford his low bail amount. I'm quite sure if he had mental health problems, he was getting a check. All they had to do was call his family, and they could have paid the $100. He was held in a confined space for a whole year for no crime. He ain't have no weapon. He hasn't committed no crime. And this is a person that they already know that comes over there all the time. So now this attorney with a budget representing the Price family in 29 pages of civil rights. A wrongful death lawsuit filed Friday. That Friday, federal court in Arkansas. And now his attorney said that he was not serving a sentence. He was not serving a sentence, but he was in there for a whole year. Now he was awaiting trial. He was awaiting trial. The whole time. For a crime that he wasn't mentally capable of committing. So what they charged him, he wasn't capable of doing what they say he did. Just a person with mental health problems. He don't know what he was saying or what he was doing. So there is no excuse, for atrocity like this. The lawsuit Pacific target Sebastian County, which runs the detention center, where Price died, as well as taking a key help, clinic from Profit Oklahoma City firm contract to look after its medical service. Prisoner well-being, the treatment to black men and black women in a police-related incident or custody, as well as jail overcrowded, and how the law enforcement handle people with mental health. So we see how they handle a mental health person in jail. You know, and I don't even think a mental health person shouldn't even be in jail. I think this should be in a separate part somewhere and have somebody specialized, getting them the help that they need. So this how they really treat mental health in jail. They don't feed them. And we see the related incidents from other people that happen to black men and black women. So it seems like it's happening only with the black men and the black women, because this is the other incident that happened the same way in prison. Well-being, the treatment of a black men and black women related incident, you know, in custody, as well as jail overcrowded, and how the law enforcement handle people with mental illness. So they've been having lately. I've been hearing so many mental health is getting in trouble being placed in jail. You know, um, and being treated like this here. So he was initially in jail for being in a mental health crisis. He didn't hurt anyone. Instead of getting him help, they took him to jail and locked him in a confined space for a whole year. A mental health person locking this in a space for a whole year. Now he was denied for any kind of care, any kind of attention, in jail, for any kind of food, any kind of help, and they just ignore him while he was in there for a whole year. Sebastian County set up a mental health code the year Price died. So after he died, the same year, then they set up a space for mental health person. You know, so the county set up a mental health court a year Price died. The same year he died. But it took effect January the 1st, 2021, after Price arrested and too late to save him. You come out with all this here, but it's too late to save him. Even though he had mental health, he's still supposed to eat. Everyone in jail is supposed to eat about 2 or 3 times a day. Because he had mental health, just how they treat mental health in jail. He was not supposed to be treated like this. Everyone that's in jail is supposed to eat 2 or 3 times a day. It's not an excuse because he had mental health. He was supposed to still eat. Sick people eat. So Price never had his day in court. He never had his day in court. He was on trial. He was in the waiting, to go to trial for his case. He never had a chance to go to trial. He served in there a whole year waiting to go to trial. So it is a option, of this office that no criminal charges can be filed against any person with regard to this death. So they don't want nobody to file, any charges against this case here. So we place a high. They say they place a high priority on the safety of every person in our jail, he said. They say they have medical personnel available to treat inmates in need for care. They stated conduct. So you have all this stuff now, but it cannot save the man that just had died in there. This is old news, but it reposted, because they're still filing charges. So now you have all these services, all these services to help people like that. So lately they've been killing these kind of people, Did now they starving them in prison, you know. But now after the death, you have these you have this kind of help for them, you know, available treatment in inmates. You know, even though if someone's sick, they have mental health, they still have to eat. That's not an excuse because they're sick. Everyone in jail is supposed to eat 2 or 3 times a day. You know, so in turning the review of the situation, hope to know more in the future. You know, so Price autopsy specific listed the minor, you know, of death as malnutrition, you know, dehydration. Also, he was tested for positive for COVID. You know, but nowhere in the autopsy does it say COVID was the primary cause of his death. So that wasn't the cause of his death. Salvation is the cause of his death. You know, if y'all see the picture, you know, he was like nothing but bones. And when he went in there, he was over 200 some pounds. You know, so one, Price went into jail August the 19th, 2020. You know, he died August the 2021. You know, he went in as 200 or more than 200 some pounds. And he died a pound of 90. And they weighed him to 120. You know, he was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, mental health. You know, he used his finger like a gun to point around the station at the officer, threatening and cursing, but he did not harm no one. He did not have no weapon. He had mental health. You know, he was just walking around. You know, walking around and playing with people, pointing their finger. He does that all the time. They say, you know, and a lot of them mental health, they walk around cursing and mumbling and saying all kind of stuff. You know, and he does it all the time. But this particular time, they took it to heart and decided to arrest him. You know, so for to arrest him, his family was terrorist threatened in the first degree, and then they had his bail for $100. You know, I don't know if they called his family or not. You know, I'm quite sure the family would have paid $100 if they would have called. You know, so five. Now he had no gun. You know, and he had mental health. You know, but he did not hurt no one. You know, he was walking around with his finger. You know, and he was talking out of his head because he had mental issue problem. You know, but they arrest him. You know, arrest him and had him sitting in there for a whole year. You know, so we see the system is broken. You know, instead of sending him to get help, they send him to jail. You know, they should have someone specialized in mental health in jail. You know, to send them to a special someone that specialized in that, not have them sitting in jail when they don't even know what they're sitting in there for. You know, so I don't think a person with mental health should be in jail. You know, you confusing. They say he lost his mind in there. I guess he did. You know, because he normally just walk around and praying with them. And they say he always was praying his finger, and they thought nothing of it. But this particular time, you know, they arrest him. You know, so no one paying him no attention to his well-being. You know, they starved him to death without feeding him. You know, not feeding him at all. Luckily, he survived a whole year before he died. You know, so he was in. So why not? No one was feeding him. Why no one was feeding him? Just because this how you treat mental health? You know, you just let them sit there and starve. You know, for a whole year. So you had the whole staff not to feed this particular person. You know, so he started eating his own fetus and drinking his own urine. This this story just really touched me. You know, and he was in there for a year, and a year later he died of starvation. You know, why no one called his family? You know, why no one called his family? You know, I'm quite sure he would have been out. if someone would have called. With someone with mental health and you arrest them, and you diagnose him, and you realize that he have mental health, the first thing y'all should be doing is trying to contact their family, and then send him to get some kind of help, not put him in a cell when, his mind, they say his mind just went, they say he completely just lost his mind up in there, you know. So, when someone goes to jail and you realize, he have mental health, get that person help. He should not even be in jail. Anyone with mental health should not be in jail. You know, pay attention to everyone well-being when they're in jail. Because they should be eating 2 or 3 times a day. You know, so I request that all mental health persons should not be in jail. Should not be in jail. You know, they should be getting help. They should have been sending him to get help. It didn't have in jail. They could have called someone that specialized in cases like that. So two, I request that everyone that's in jail eat 2 or 3 times a day. This case should never happen, and it should never happen again. Because everyone in jail should be eating 2 or 3 times a day, no matter if you're sick or whatever. Because anyone that's sick with mental health shouldn't even be in jail. So three, no one should not be in jail starving to death. Everyone should be taking care of their well-being or eating. Everyone in jail should be eating, should not be starving. And when you arrest someone and you realize they have mental health, the first thing you should be doing is calling their family and calling somebody that specializes in mental health, and sending them to a special place to get help. They need help not to be in jail, you know, and they're just like a child, they have to eat. They screaming, they say he was screaming and how they making all, okay, he have health issues that someone should have called his family. Someone should have called his family. A life could have been saved. Life could have been saved. You know, and I'm glad you did. You the same year he died, then you have somebody specializing, and you're having all this stuff done. That's good. But I wish I would have had that done before someone died in jail or salvation. But then I read they had other cases. Same thing happened to them. Why all of a sudden on the news I've been always hearing mental health people is going to jail. But they should be in a place getting help. So that's all the show news I have for you today. I request that anyone that's in jail, in all the jailhouses, everyone should be eating in the jailhouse. We shouldn't have nobody, be dying of starvation. I don't say eat meals 3 times a day. I didn't know, you just let someone sit in there, and just starve like that. So I know this was a touching story for me. I saw the video and everything. It was very touching for someone to be over 200 pounds, and then I saw it was just nothing but bones. A starvation. I mean, how you just starve someone like that? That is so hurting and touching to me. So y'all have a blessed night, and I'll see y'all on the next video.